What information can a forensic scientist determine from a human hair?
A single strand of human hair can identify the age and sex of the owner. Drugs and narcotics the individual has taken or used, up to 90 days previously, and through DNA evaluation and sample comparisons, from whose head the hair came.
What do truffles look like?
A truffle has a rather unappealing appearance, round and irregularly shaped with a thick, rough, wrinkled skin that varies in color from almost black to off-white. The fruiting bodies present on truffles are fragrant, fleshy structures that usually grow to about the size of a golf ball. They range from white to gray or brown to nearly black in color. There are nearly 70 known varieties of truffles, but the most desirable is the black truffle, known as black diamond, that grows in France's Périgord and Corsi regions as well as Italy's Umbria region. The flesh of the black diamond appears to be black, but it is actually dark brown, and contains white striations. The flesh has an aroma that is extremely pungent. The next most popular is the white truffle, actually off-white or beige, of Italy's Piedmont region. Both the aroma and flavor of this truffle are earthy and garlicky. Fresh truffles are available from late fall to midwinter, and can be stored in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. Dark truffles are generally used to flavor foods such as omelets, polentas, risottos, and sauces. White truffles are usually served raw. They are often grated over foods such as pasta or dishes containing cheese, as their flavors are complementary. They are also added at the last minute to cook dishes.
Does your heart stop beating when you sneeze?
The heart does not stop when you sneeze. Sneezing, however, does affect the cardiovascular system. It causes a change in pressure inside the chest. This change in pressure affects the blood flow to the heart, which in turn affects the heart's rhythm. Therefore, a sneeze does produce a harmless delay between one heartbeat and the next, often misinterpreted as a skipped beat.
When was the term Web 2 first used?
The term Web 2.0 was first used in 2004 during a brainstorming conference between Tim O'Reilly, 1954, of O'Reilly Media and Media Live International. Rather than believing, as some had, that the web had crashed following the .com collapse, it was a turning point for the web to become a platform for collaborative effort between Internet users, providers, and enterprises.
When was a symbol for the concept of zero first used?
Surprisingly, the symbol for zero emerged later than the concept for the other numbers. Although the Babylonians, 600 BCE and earlier, had a symbol for zero, it was merely a placeholder and not used for computational purposes. The ancient Greeks conceived of logic and geometry, concepts providing the foundation for all mathematics, yet they never had a symbol for zero. The Maya also had a symbol for zero as a placeholder in the 4th century. But they also did not use zero in computations. Hindu mathematicians are usually given credit for developing a symbol for the concept zero. They recognized zero as representing the absence of quantity and developed its use in mathematical calculations. It appears in an inscription at Gwalior dated 870 CE. However, it is found even earlier than that in inscriptions dating from the 7th century in Cambodia, Sumatra, and Bangka Island, off the coast of Sumatra. Although there is no documented evidence in printed material for the zero in China before 1247, some historians maintain that there was a blank space on the Chinese Canton board representing zero, as early as the 4th century BCE.
What is the most abundant group of organisms?
The eubacteria are the most abundant group of organisms on Earth. More living eubacteria inhabit the human mouth than the total number of mammals living on Earth.
What is an expert system?
An expert system is a type of highly specialized software that analyzes complex problems in a particular field and recommends possible solutions based on information previously programmed into it. The person who develops an expert system first analyzes the behavior of a human expert in a given field, then inputs all the explicit rules resulting from their study into the system. Expert systems are used in equipment repair, insurance planning, training, medical diagnosis, and other areas.
What conditions result in microclimates?
Microclimates are small-scale regions where the average weather conditions are measurably different from the larger, surrounding region. Differences in temperature, precipitation, wind, or cloud cover can produce microclimates. Frequent causes of microclimates are differences in elevation, mountains that alter wind patterns, shorelines, and man-made structures, such as buildings, that can alter the wind patterns.
Why do dogs howl at sirens?
The high pitch of a siren is very similar to the pitch of a dog's howl. A dog's howl is a way of communicating with other dogs, either to indicate location or to define territory. When a dog responds to an ambulance or fire engine siren, he is returning the call of the wild.
What names are used for groups of birds?
A group of birds in general is called a congregation, flight, flock, volée, or volley. Below is a list specific to types of birds.
How much weight can an ant carry?
Ants are the superweight lifters of the animal kingdom. They are strong in relation to their size and can carry objects 10 to 20 times their own weight. Some species can carry objects up to 50 times their own weight. Ants are able to carry these objects great distances and even climb trees while carrying them. This is comparable to a 100-pound person picking up a small car, carrying it 7 to 8 miles on his back and then climbing the tallest mountain while still carrying the car.
How long do most tornadoes last?
Most tornadoes have short lifespans, lasting less than 10 minutes, though they may be as short as only several seconds. Some may last an hour or longer. Tornadoes during the early to mid-1900s were often reported to be longer-lived, though many climatologists believe these may have been tornado series instead of one single event. An average tornado will travel 5 miles, 8 kilometers, during its lifespan. The tornado of March 18, 1925 traveled 219 miles, 352 kilometers, through Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana at an average speed of 60 to 73 miles per hour, 97 to 117 kilometers per hour.
What was the first major use for punched cards?
Punched cards were a way of programming, or giving instructions to, a machine. In 1801, Joseph Marie Jacquard, 1752–1834, built a device that could do automated pattern weaving. Cards with holes were used to direct threads in the loom, creating predefined patterns in the cloth. The pattern was determined by the arrangement of holes in the cards, with wire hooks passing through the holes to grab and pull through specific threads to be woven into the cloth. By the 1880s, Herman Hall Erith, 1860–1929, was using the idea of punched cards to give machines instructions. He built a punched card tabulator that processed the data gathered for the 1,890 United States Census in 6 weeks, 3 times the speed of previous compilations. Metal pins in the machine's reader passed through holes punched in cards the size of dollar bills. momentarily closing electric circuits. The resulting pulses advanced counters assigned to details such as income and family size. A sorter could also be programmed to pigeonhole cards according to pattern of holes. An important aid in analyzing census statistics. Later, Hal Erith founded Tabulating Machines Co., which in 1924 became IBM. When IBM adopted the 80-column punched card, measuring 7 3/8 x 3 1/4 inches 18.7 x 8.25 centimeters and 0.007 inches 0.17 millimeters thick. The de facto industry standard was set, which has endured for decades.
What is the Gaia hypothesis?
British scientists James Lovelock, 1919, and Lynn Margulis, 1938, proposed the Gaia hypothesis in the 1970s. According to the theory, all living and non-living organisms on Earth form a single unity that is self-regulated by the organisms themselves. Therefore, the whole planet can be considered a huge single organism. Evidence for this theory is the stability of atmospheric conditions over eons.
What is the difference between special and general relativity?
Albert Einstein developed the theory of relativity in the early 20th century. He published the theory of special relativity in 1905 and the theory of general relativity in 1916. Special relativity deals only with non-accelerating, inertial, reference frames. General relativity deals with accelerating, non-inertial, reference frames. Simply stated, according to the theory of special relativity, the laws of nature are the same for all observers whose frames of reference are moving with constant velocity with respect to each other. Published as an addenda to the special theory of relativity was the famous equation E equals mc2, representing that mass and energy can be transformed into each other. In contrast, general relativity states that the laws of nature are the same for all observers even if they are accelerating with respect to each other.
Which element has the highest density?
Either osmium or iridium is the element with the highest density, however. Scientists have yet to gather enough conclusive data to choose between the two. When traditional methods of measurement are employed, osmium generally appears to be the densest element. Yet, when calculations are made based upon the space lattice, which may be a more reliable method given the nature of these elements, the density of iridium is 22.65 compared to 22.61 for osmium.
Which chemicals constitute the human body?
About 24 elements are used by the body in its functions and processes. Potassium, sulfur, sodium, chlorine, and magnesium each occur at 0.35% or less. There are also traces of iron, cobalt, copper, manganese, iodine, zinc, fluorine, boron, aluminum, molybdenum, silicon, chromium, and selenium.
What is the difference between poison ivy, oak, and sumac?
These North American woody plants grow in almost any habitat and are quite similar in appearance. Each variety of plant has 3 leaf compounds that alternate berry-like fruits and rusty brown stems. Poison ivy. Rus radicans, grows like a vine rather than a shrub and can grow very high. Covering tall, stationary items such as trees. The fruit of R. radicans is gray in color and is without hair, and the leaves of the plant are slightly lobed. Rus toxicodendron, commonly known as poison oak, usually grows as a shrub, but it can also climb. Its leaflets are lobed and resemble the leaves of oak trees, and its fruit is hairy. Poison sumac, Rus vernix, grows only in acidic, wet swamps of North America. This shrub can grow as high as 12 feet, 3.6 meters. The fruit it produces hangs in a cluster and ranges from gray to brown in color. Poison sumac has dark green leaves that are sharply pointed, compound, and alternating. It also has inconspicuous flowers that are yellowish green. All parts of poison ivy, poison oak, and poison sumac can cause serious dermatitis.
What are imaginary numbers?
Imaginary numbers are the square roots of negative numbers. Since the square is the product of 2 equal numbers with like signs, it is always positive. Therefore, no number multiplied by itself can give a negative real number. The symbol I is used to indicate an imaginary number.
What distinguishes gold and silver as elements?
Besides their use as precious metals, gold and silver have properties that distinguish them from other chemical elements. Gold is the most ductile and malleable metal. The thinnest gold leaf is 0.0001 mm thick. Silver is the most reflective of all metals, thus, it is used in mirrors.
What is the difference between nuclear fission and nuclear fusion?
Nuclear fission is the splitting of an atomic nucleus into at least 2 fragments. Nuclear fusion is a nuclear reaction in which the nuclei of atoms of low atomic number, such as hydrogen and helium, fuse to form a heavier nucleus. although in both nuclear fission and nuclear fusion substantial amounts of energy are produced. The amount of energy produced in fusion is far greater than the amount of energy produced in fission.
What is the scientific name for ringing in the ears?
Tinnitus is the perception of sound in the ears or head where no external source is present. It is often referred to as ringing in the ears. In almost all cases, tinnitus is a subjective noise, meaning that only the person who has tinnitus can hear it. Persistent tinnitus usually indicates the presence of hearing loss. The exact cause of tinnitus is not known, but there are several likely sources, all of which are known to trigger or worsen the condition. They include noise-induced hearing loss, wax buildup in the ear canal, medicines that are toxic to the ear or sinus infections, jaw misalignment, and head and neck trauma.
What is DNA?
Deoxyribonucleic acid, DNA, is the genetic material for all cellular organisms. The discovery of the structure of DNA is considered the most important molecular discovery of the 20th century.
Which mushrooms were considered sacred by the Aztecs?
Mushrooms of the genera Conocybe and Psilocybe, both of which have hallucinogenic properties, were considered sacred by the Aztecs. These mushrooms are still used in religious ceremonies by the descendants of the Aztecs. Psilocybin, which is chemically related to lysenic acid diethylamide. LSD, is a component to both genera and is responsible for the trance-like state and colorful visions experienced by those who eat these mushrooms.
What is the Very Large Array, VLA, and what information have we learned from it?
The Very Large Array, VLA, is one of the world's premier astronomical radio observatories. The VLA consists of 27 antennas arranged in a huge Y pattern up to 22 miles, 36 kilometers. Across roughly 1.5 times the size of Washington, D.C. Each antenna is 81 feet. 25 meters, in diameter, they are combined electronically to give the resolution of an antenna 22 miles. 36 kilometers, across, with the sensitivity of a dish 422 feet, 130 meters, in diameter. Each of the 27 radio telescopes in the VLA is the size of a house and can be moved on train tracks. In its 22nd year of operation, the VLA has been one of the most productive observatories, with more than 2,200 scientists using it for more than 10,000 separate observing projects. The VLA has been used to discover water on the planet Mercury, radio bright coronae around ordinary stars. Microquasars in our galaxy, gravitationally induced Einstein rings around distant galaxies. And radio counterparts to cosmologically distant gamma-ray bursts. The vast size of the VLA has allowed astronomers to study the details of superfast cosmic jets, and even map the center of our galaxy.
When does frost form?
A frost is a crystalline deposit of small thin ice crystals formed on objects that are at freezing or below freezing temperatures. This phenomenon occurs when atmospheric water vapor condenses directly into ice without first becoming a liquid. This process is called sublimation. Usually frost appears on clear, calm nights, especially during early autumn when the air above the Earth is quite moist. Permafrost is permanently frozen ground that never thaws out completely.
Which organ is most sensitive to touch, temperature, and pain?
The tongue is more sensitive to touch, temperature, and pain than any other part of the body.
What are the various layers of the skin?
Skin is a tissue membrane that consists of layers of epithelial and connective tissues. The outer layer of the skin's epithelial tissue is the epidermis, and the inner layer of connective tissue is the dermis. The epidermis layer is replaced continually as new cells, produced in the stratum basale, mature, and are pushed to the surface by the newer cells beneath. The entire epidermis is replaced in about 27 days. The dermis, the lower layer, contains nerve endings, sweat glands, hair follicles, and blood vessels. The upper portion of the dermis has small, finger-like projections called papillae, which extend into the upper layer. The patterns of ridges and grooves visible on the skin of the soles, palms, and fingertips are formed from the tops of the dermal papillae.
How did humans evolve?
Evolution of the Homo lineage of modern humans, Homo sapiens, has been proposed to originate from a hunter of nearly 5 feet, 1.5 meters, tall, Homo habilis, who is wide 95 li, presumed to have evolved from an Australopithecine ancestor. Near the beginning of the Pleistocene epoch, 2 million years ago. Homo habilis is thought to have transformed into Homo erectus, Java man, who used fire and possessed culture. Middle Pleistocene populations of Homo erectus are said to show steady evolution toward the anatomy of Homo sapiens. Neanderthals, Cro-Magnons, and modern humans, 120,000 to 40,000 years ago. Pre-modern Homo sapiens built huts and made clothing.
Do all birds fly?
Oh. Among the flightless birds, the penguins and the ratites are the best known. Ratites include emus, kiwis, ostriches, rheas, and cassowaries. They are called ratite because they lack a keel on the breastbone. All of these birds have wings but lost their power to fly millions of years ago. Many birds that live isolated on oceanic islands, for example, the great auk, apparently became flightless in the absence of predators and the consequent gradual disuse of their wings for escape.
Who was the founder of the Soviet space program?
Sergei P. Korolev, 1907 to 1966, made enormous contributions to the development of Soviet manned spaceflight. And his name is linked with their most significant space achievements. Trained as an aeronautical engineer, he directed the Moscow group studying the principles of rocket propulsion. And in 1946 took over the Soviet program to develop long-range ballistic rockets. Under Korolev, the Soviets used these rockets for space projects and launched the world's first satellite on October 4, 1957. Besides a vigorous, unmanned, interplanetary research program, Korolev's goal was to place men in space, and following tests with animals his manned space flight program was initiated when Yuri Gagarin was successfully launched into Earth's orbit. Chaffee, Grissom, and White died in a cabin fire during a test firing of the Apollo 1 rocket. Komarov was killed in Soyuz 1 when the capsule's parachute failed. Dobrovolsky, Patsayev, and Volkov were killed during the Soyuz II's re-entry, when a valve accidentally opened and released their capsule's atmosphere. Jarvis, McAuliffe, McNair, Onizuka, Resnick, Scobie, and Smith died when the Space Shuttle Challenger STS-51L exploded 73 seconds after liftoff. Husband, McCool, Anderson, Jabla, Brown, Clark, and Ramon died when the Space Shuttle Columbia disintegrated over Texas upon re-entry. In addition, 19 other astronauts and cosmonauts have died of non-space-related causes. 14 of these died in air crashes, 4 died of natural causes, and 1 died in an auto crash. What was one of the worst disasters in the U.S.?
Do humans or bloodhounds have a keener sense of smell?
Humans smell the world using about 12 million olfactory receptor cells, whereas bloodhounds have 4 billion such cells and, therefore, a much better sense of smell. For example, the trace of sweat that seeps through shoes and is left in footprints, is a million times more powerful than the bloodhound needs to track down someone.
What is the sun made of?
The sun is an incandescent ball of gases. Its mass is 1.8 x 1027 tons or 1.8 octillion tons, a mass 330,000 times as great as Earth.
How is underground coal mined?
There are two basic types of underground mining methods, room and pillar and longwall. In room and pillar mines, coal is removed by cutting rooms, or large tunnels. In the solid coal, leaving pillars of coal for roof support. Longwall mining takes successive slices over the entire length of a long working face. In the United States, about 2/3 of the coal recovered by underground mining is by room and pillar method. The other third is recovered by longwall mining. Coal seams in the United States range in thickness from a thin film to 50 feet, 15 meters, or more. The thickest coal beds are in the western states, ranging from 10 feet, 3 meters, in Utah and New Mexico to 50 feet, 15 meters, in Wyoming. Other places, such as Great Britain, use the longwall method.
What seedless, vascular plant played a role in early photography?
Prior to the invention of flash bulbs, photographers used flash powder that consisted almost entirely of dried spores from club mosses of the genus Lycopodium. Layers of sediment formed over the plant material during each flood cycle. Heat and pressure built up in these accumulated layers and converted the plant material to coal. The various types of coal, lignite, bituminous, and anthracite, were formed as a result of the different temperatures and pressures to which the layers were exposed.
Why is sulfuric acid important?
Sometimes called oil of vitriol, or vitriolic acid, sulfuric acid. H2SO4 has become one of the most important of all chemicals. It was little used until it became essential for the manufacture of soda in the 18th century. It is prepared industrially by the reaction of water with sulfur trioxide, which in turn is made by chemical combination of sulfur dioxide and oxygen by one of two processes: the contact process or the chamber process. Many manufactured articles in common use depend in some way on sulfuric acid for their production. 90% of the sulfuric acid manufactured in the United States is used in the production of fertilizers and other inorganic chemicals.
What is the message attached to the Voyager spacecraft?
Voyager 1, launched September 5, 1977, and Voyager 2, launched August 20, 1977. Were unmanned space probes designed to explore the outer planets and then travel out of the solar system? A gold-coated copper phonograph record containing a message to any possible extraterrestrial civilization that they might encounter is attached to each spacecraft. The record contains both video and audio images of Earth and the civilization that sent this message to the stars. The record begins with 118 pictures. These show Earth's position in the galaxy, a key to the mathematical notation used in other pictures. The Sun, other planets in the solar system, human anatomy and reproduction. Various types of terrain, seashore, desert, mountains, examples of vegetation and animal life. People of both sexes and of all ages and ethnic types engaged in a number of activities, structures. From grass huts to the Taj Mahal to the Sydney Opera House, showing diverse architectural styles. And means of transportation, including roads, bridges, cars, planes, and space vehicles. The pictures are followed by greetings from Jimmy Carter, who was then President of the United States, and Kurt Waldheim, then Secretary General of the United Nations. Brief messages in 54 languages, ranging from ancient Sumerian to English, are included, as is a song of the humpback whale. The next section is a series of sounds common to Earth. These include thunder, rain, wind, fire, barking dogs, footsteps, laughter. Human speech, the cry of an infant, and the sounds of a human heartbeat and human brainwaves. The record concludes with approximately 90 minutes of music, Earth's greatest hits. These musical selections were drawn from a broad spectrum of cultures and include such diverse pieces as A Pygmy Girl's Initiation Song, bagpipe music from Azerbaijan, the Fifth Symphony, First Movement by Ludwig van Beethoven, and Johnny Be Good by Chuck Berry. It will be tens, or even hundreds of thousands of years before either Voyager comes close to another star, and perhaps the message will never be heard. But it is a sign of humanity's hope to encounter life elsewhere in the universe.
Is there a formula for computing the wind chill?
Here is how you calculate the new wind chill index. TWC 535.7410.6215 T, 35.75, V 0.16, 10.4275 T, V 0.16, TWC is the wind chill in degrees F. V is the wind speed in miles per hour, and T is the temperature in degrees F.
Who was the first person to attempt a color standardization scheme for minerals?
The German mineralogist Abraham Gottlob Werner, c. 1750 to 1817, devised a method of describing minerals by their external characteristics, including color. He worked out an arrangement of colors and color names, illustrated by an actual set of minerals.
What were early ideas on evolution?
While some Greek philosophers had theories about the gradual evolution of life, Plato, 427 to 347 b. CE, and Aristotle, 384 to 322 BCE, were not among them. In the 1700s, natural theology, the explanation of life as the manifestation of the Creator's plan, held sway in Europe. This idea was the motive force behind the work of Carl Linnaeus, 1707 to 1778. Who was the first to classify all known living things by kingdom? Also popular prior to the work of Charles Darwin, 1809 to 1882, were the theories of special creation. Creationism, blending inheritance. That offspring were always the mixture of the traits of their two parents, and acquired characteristics.
What are the advantages of compact fluorescent light bulbs over incandescent light bulbs?
Compact fluorescent light bulbs, CFLs, have the following advantages over incandescent light bulbs when used properly. They last up to 10 times longer, use about a quarter of the energy, and produce 90% less heat, while producing more light per watt. For example, a 27-watt compact fluorescent lamp provides about 1,800 lumens, compared to 1,750 lumens from a 100-watt incandescent lamp. CFLs are most efficient in areas where lights are on for long periods of time.
What are some examples of genetic engineering in animals and microbes?
One of the earliest applications of biotechnology was the genetic engineering of a growth hormone. Bovine GH, produced naturally in the bovine pituitary. Bovine GH can increase milk production in lactating cows. Using biotechnology, scientists bioengineered the gene that controls bovine GH production into E. coli, grew the bacteria in fermentation chambers, and thus produced large quantities of bovine GH. The bioengineered bovine GH when injected into lactating cows resulted in an increase of up to 20% in national milk production. Using bovine GH, farmers are able to stabilize milk production in their herds, avoiding fluctuations in production levels. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, approved use of recombinant bovine growth hormone in 1993 after 10 years of study. A similar regimen was adapted using the pig equivalent of growth hormone, porcine GH. Injected in pigs, Porcine GH reduced back fat and increased muscle, meat, gain. Pig growth hormone has been test marketed in a select population with no ill effects. However, it has not yet been approved by the FDA. The first transgenic animal available as a food source on a large scale was the salmon, which reached U.S. food markets in 2001, following rigid evaluations of consumer and environmental safety. These salmon have the capability of growing from egg to market size, 6 to 10 pounds, in 18 months. As compared to conventional fish breeding, which takes up to 36 months to bring a fish to market size. The use of transgenic salmon can help reduce overfishing of wild salmon stocks.
How is the star in star sapphires produced?
Sapphires are composed of gem-quality corundum, Al2O3. Color appears in sapphires when small amounts of iron and titanium are present. Star sapphires contain needles of the mineral rutile that will display as a 6-ray star figure when cut in the unfaceted cabochon, dome or convex, form. The most highly prized star sapphires are blue. Black or white star sapphires are less valuable. Since a ruby is simply the red variety of corundum, star rubies also exist.
Who invented stainless steel?
Metallurgists in several countries developed stainless steel, a group of iron-based alloys combined with chromium in order to be resistant to rusting and corrosion. Chromium was used in small amounts in 1872 to strengthen the steel of the Eads Bridge over the Mississippi River. But it wasn't until the 1900s that a truly rust-resistant alloy was developed. Metallurgists in several countries developed stainless steel between 1903 and 1912. An American, Elwood Haynes, 1857 to 1925, developed several alloy steels and in 1911 produced stainless steel. Harry Brearley, 1871 to 1948, of Great Britain receives most of the credit for its development. In 1913, he discovered that adding chromium to low-carbon steel improved its resistance to corrosion. Frederick Beckett, 1875 to 1942, a Canadian-American metallurgist. And German scientists Philipp Monartz and W. Borchers were among the early developers.
Is Chicago the windiest city?
Dodge City, Kansas, with an average wind speed of 13.9 miles per hour. 22.4 kilometers per hour, ranks number 1 as the windiest city. By comparison, the average wind speed in Chicago is only 10.3 miles per hour, 16.6 kilometers per hour. The highest surface wind ever recorded was on Mount Washington, New Hampshire, at an elevation of 6,288 feet, 1.9 kilometers. On April 12, 1934, its wind speed was 231 miles, 371.7 kilometers per hour, and its average wind speed was 35 miles, 56.3 kilometers per hour. The windiest place on Earth is Antarctica, where winds can gust up to 200 miles per hour. 322 kilometers per hour, which is twice as hard as in an average hurricane.
What is the fastest swimming whale?
The orca or killer whale, or Sinis orca, is the fastest swimming whale. In fact, it is the fastest swimming marine mammal with speeds that reach 31 miles per hour, 50 kilometers per hour.
Which first aid measures can be used for a bite by a black widow spider?
The black widow spider, Latrodectus mactans, is common throughout the United States. Its bite is severely poisonous, but no first aid measures are of value. Age, body size, and degree of sensitivity determine the severity of symptoms, which include an initial pinprick with a dull numbing pain, followed by swelling. An ice cube may be placed over the bite to relieve pain. Between 10 and 40 minutes after the bite, severe abdominal pain and rigidity of stomach muscles develop. Muscle spasms in the extremities, ascending paralysis, and difficulty in swallowing and breathing follow. The mortality rate is less than 1%, but anyone who has been bitten should see a doctor. The elderly, infants, and those with allergies are most at risk, and should be hospitalized.
What are the two types of nuclear reactors in the United States?
Nuclear power plants contain a reactor unit that releases heat to turn water into steam, which then drives the turbine generators that generate electricity. There are two types of reactors in the United States: boiling water reactors and pressurized water reactors. In a boiling water reactor, the water heated by the reactor core turns directly into steam in the reactor vessel and is then used to power the turbine generator. In a pressurized water reactor, the water heated by the reactor core is kept under pressure and does not turn to steam. The hot, radioactive, liquid water then flows through and heats thousands of tubes in a steam generator. Outside the hot tubes in the steam generator is non-radioactive water which boils and turns to steam. The radioactive water flows back into the reactor core, where it is reheated and then returns to the steam generator.
What is the most famous roundworm?
One soil nematode, Caenorhabditis elegans, is widely cultured and has become a model research organism in developmental biology. The study of this animal was begun in 1963 by Sidney Brenner, 1927, who received the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 2002. The species normally lives in soil but is easily grown in the laboratory in petri dishes. It is only about 0.06 inch, 1.5 millimeters, long, has a simple, transparent body consisting of only 959 cells, and grows from zygote to mature adult in only 3.5 days. The genome, genetic material, of C. elegans, consisting of 14,000 genes, was the first animal genome to be completely mapped and sequenced. The small transparent body of this nematode allows researchers to locate cells in which a specific developmentally important gene is active. These cells show up as bright green spots in a photograph because they have been genetically engineered to produce a green fluorescent protein known as GFP. The complete wiring diagram of its nervous system is known, including all the neurons and all connections between them. Much of the knowledge of nematode genetics and development gained from the study of C. elegans is transferable to the study of other animals.
What is REM sleep?
REM sleep is rapid eye movement sleep. It is characterized by faster breathing and heart rates than NREM, non-rapid eye movement, sleep. The only people who do not have REM sleep are those who have been blind from birth. REM sleep usually occurs in 4 to 5 periods, varying from 5 minutes to about an hour, growing progressively longer as sleep continues.
What are the two forms of energy?
The two forms of energy are kinetic energy and potential energy. Kinetic energy is the energy possessed by an object as a result of its motion, while potential energy is the energy possessed by an object as a result of its position. As an example, a ball sitting on top of a fence has potential energy. When the ball falls off the fence, it has kinetic energy. The potential energy is transformed into kinetic energy.
What is nanotechnology?
Nanotechnology is a relatively new field of science that aims to understand matter at dimensions between 1 and 100 nanometers. Nanomaterials may be engineered or occur in nature. Some of the different types of nanomaterials, named for their individual shape and dimensions, are nanoparticles, nanotubes, and nanofilms. Nanoparticles are bits of material where all the dimensions are nanosized. Nanotubes are long cylindrical strings of molecules whose diameter is nanosized. Nanofilms have a thickness that is nanosized, but the other dimensions may be larger. Researchers are developing ways to apply nanotechnology to a wide variety of fields, including transportation, sports, electronics, and medicine. Specific applications of nanotechnology include fabrics with added insulation without additional bulk. Other fabrics are treated with coatings to make them stain-proof. Nanorobots are being used in medicine to help diagnose and treat health problems. In the field of electronics, nanotechnology could shrink the size of many electronic products. Researchers in the food industry are investigating the use of nanotechnology to enhance the flavor of food. They are also searching for ways to introduce antibacterial nanostructures into food packaging.
How much water can the average family in the United States save by installing efficient water fixtures and checking regularly for leaks?
The average family in the United States would use only 45.2 gallons, 171 liters, of water per day, saving 24.1 gallons, 91 liters, per day, by installing more efficient water fixtures and checking for leaks. This reduces daily per capita water use by 35%.
How does a seismograph work?
A seismograph records earthquake waves. When an earthquake occurs, three types of waves are generated. The first two, the P and S waves, are propagated within the Earth, while the third, consisting of Love and Rayleigh waves, is propagated along the planet's surface. The P wave travels about 3.5 miles, 5.6 kilometers, per second and is the first wave to reach the surface. The S wave travels at a velocity of a little more than half of the P waves. If the velocities of the different modes of wave propagation are known, the distance between the earthquake and an observation station may be deduced by measuring the time interval between the arrival of the faster and slower waves. When the ground shakes, the suspended weight of the seismograph, because of its inertia, scarcely moves. But the shaking motion is transmitted to the marker, which leaves a record on the drum.
What is the chemical composition of a skunk's spray?
The chief odorous components of the spray have been identified as crotyl mercaptan, isopentyl mercaptan, and methylcrotyl disulfide in the ratio of 4:4:3. The liquid is an oily, pale yellow, foul-smelling spray that can cause severe eye inflammation. This defensive weapon is discharged from two tiny nipples located just inside the skunk's anus, either as a fine spray or a short stream of rain-sized drops. Although the liquid's range is 6.5 to 10 feet, 2 to 3 meters. Its smell can be detected 1.5 miles, 2.5 kilometers, downwind.
What is Gray's manual?
Gray's Manual of Botany, first published in 1848 by Asa Gray. 1810 to 1888, under the title Manual of the Botany of Northern United States. Was one of the first guides to the identification of plants of eastern North America. The publication contained keys and thorough descriptions of plants. The 8th, and centennial, edition was largely rewritten and expanded by Merritt Lyndon Fernald. 1873 to 1950, and published in 1950. This edition was corrected and updated by R.C. Rollins and reprinted in 1987 by Dioscorides Press.
Which was the first widely used high-level programming language?
Fortran, Formula Translator, was developed by IBM in the late 1950s. John Backus, 1924 to 2007, was the head of the team that developed Fortran. Designed for scientific work containing mathematical formulas. Fortran allowed programmers to use algebraic expressions rather than cryptic assembly code. The Fortran compiler translated the algebraic expressions into machine-level code. By the late 1960s, Fortran was available on almost every computer, especially IBM machines, and utilized by many users.
What is the largest organ in the human body?
The largest and heaviest human organ is the skin, with a total surface area of about 20 square feet. 1.9 square meters, for an average person, or 25 square feet, 2.3 square meters, for a large person. It weighs 5.6 pounds, 2.7 kilograms, on average, representing 4% of the average weight of the human body. Although generally it is not thought of as an organ, anatomically it is an organ.
What is ultrasound?
Ultrasound, also called sonography, is another type of 3D computerized imaging. Using brief pulses of ultra-high frequency acoustic waves, lasting 0.01 second, it can produce a sonar map of the imaged object. The technique is similar to the echolocation used by bats, whales, and dolphins. By measuring the echo waves, it is possible to determine the size, shape, location, and consistency, whether it is solid, fluid-filled, or both, of an object. It is frequently used in obstetrics because, unlike X-rays, it does not use ionizing radiation to produce an image. It causes no health problems for the mother or unborn fetus and may be repeated as often as necessary.
What are some of the accomplishments of female astronauts?
First American woman in space, Sally K. Ride June 18, 1983, aboard Challenger STS-7. First American woman to walk in space, Catherine D. Sullivan October 11, 1984, aboard Challenger STS-41G. First woman to make 3 space flights, Shannon W. Lucid June 17, 1985, October 18, 1989, and August 2, 1991. First African American woman in space. May Carol Jemison September 12, 1992, aboard Endeavour. First American woman space shuttle pilot, Eileen M. Collins February 3, 1995, aboard Discovery.
What is good and bad cholesterol?
Chemically a lipid, cholesterol is an important constituent of body cells. This fatty substance, produced mostly in the liver, is involved in bile salt and hormone formation, and in the transport of fats in the bloodstream to the tissues throughout the body. Both cholesterol and fats are transported as lipoproteins, units having a core of cholesterol and fats in varying proportions with an outer wrapping of carrier protein phospholoids and apoproteins. An overabundance of cholesterol in the bloodstream can be an inherited trait. Can be triggered by dietary intake, or can be the result of a metabolic disease, such as diabetes mellitus. Fats, from meat, oil, and dairy products, strongly affect the cholesterol level. High cholesterol levels in the blood may lead to a narrowing of the inner lining of the coronary arteries from the buildup of a fatty tissue called atheroma. This increases the risk of coronary heart disease or stroke. However, if most cholesterol in the blood is in the form of high-density lipoproteins, HDL, then it seems to protect against arterial disease. HDL picks up cholesterol in the arteries and brings it back to the liver for excretion or reprocessing.
How far away is the nearest black hole?
The black hole nearest to Earth is V4641 Sagittarii. It is 1,600 light-years. 9,399,362, 677,500,000 miles, away from Earth.
How much newspaper must be recycled to save one tree?
$135 to 40 foot, 10.6 to 12 meter, tree produces a stack of newspapers 4 feet. 1.2 meters, thick. This much newspaper must be recycled to save a tree.
What are some environmental advantages to recycling electronics?
Recycling 1 million desktop computers prevents the release of greenhouse gases equivalent to the annual emissions of 16,000 passenger cars. Recycling 1 million laptop computers saves the energy equivalent to the electricity used by 3,657 U.S. homes in 1 year. Recycling the 414,000 tons of electronics that were collected in the United States in 2007 prevented the release of greenhouse gases equivalent to the annual emissions of more than 178,000 cars. 1 metric ton of circuit boards can contain 40 to 800 times the concentration of gold ore mined in the United States. 1 metric ton of circuit boards can contain 30 to 40 times the concentration of copper ore mined in the United States. Recycling 1 million cell phones could recover 7,500 pounds, 3,402 kilograms of gold, which could be used in new products rather than having to mine more gold.
What is Doppler radar?
Doppler radar measures frequency differences between signals bouncing off objects moving away from or toward it. By measuring the difference between the transmitted and received frequencies, Doppler radar calculates the speed of the air in which the rain, snow, ice crystals, and even insects are moving. It can then be used to predict speed and direction of wind and amount of precipitation associated with a storm. The National Weather Service has installed a series of next-generation radar, Doppler radar systems throughout the country. They are especially helpful in measuring the speed of tornadoes and other violent thunderstorms.
What is a tidal bore?
A tidal bore is a large, turbulent, wall-like wave of water that moves inland or upriver as an incoming tidal current surges against the flow of a more narrow and shallow river, bay, or estuary. It can be 10 to 16 feet, 3 to 5 meters, high and move rapidly. 10 to 15 knots, upstream with, and faster than, the rising tide.
Who invented the COBOL computer language?
COBOL, Common Business-Oriented Language, is a prominent computer language designed specifically for commercial uses. Created in 1960 by a team drawn from several computer makers and the Pentagon. The best-known individual associated with COBOL was then Lieutenant Grace Murray Hopper, who made fundamental contributions to the U.S. Navy's standardization of COBOL. COBOL excels at the most common Kinds of data processing for business: simple arithmetic operations performed on huge files of data. The language endures because its syntax is very much like English and because a program written in COBOL for one kind of computer can run on many others without alteration.